Hello there, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and members of the public. My name is Tatiana Arnaud. I am your city engineer, and I am here to present the recommended speed limits from the 2022 Engineering and Traffic Survey. So the recommendation is that the City Council receive and comment on the 2022 speed limit survey results on 49 streets of 175 roadway segments in the city of Oxnard, and to approve introduction of the 2022 speed limit ordinance for the first reading by title only, waiving further reading of the ordinance amending section 8-2 of Article 1 of Chapter 8 of the Oxnard City Code. So some background. There are basically three different speed laws. The first one is basic. So regardless of the speed limit, doesn't matter what's posted and what's not, the driver must drive at a speed that is safe based on whatever the prevailing condition is. So for example, if there's a visibility issue because of fog, you need to slow down. If the roadway is slippery because of rain, you must slow down. Or if there's a presence of pedestrian activity or cyclists, you must slow down below the speed limit. So that's law number one. The other speed limit is set by state law, which is called prima facie. And this is based on certain types of roadways. So for example, prima facie state law tells us that a residential street is 25 miles per hour, and an alleyway is 15 miles per hour, business districts 25 miles per hour. So you might not see posted speed limit signs, but this is basically this is the law. If you're in a residential area with no posted speed limits, which you don't often see, it's 25 miles per hour. Other than that, we do have the maximum speed. So for instance, if you are in an undivided 2-lane roadway, then it's going to be an automatic 55 miles per hour, or other multi-lane roads are going to be set at 65 miles per hour. So for example, Oxnard Boulevard, in absence of a speed survey, is 65 miles per hour. So that's just the basic laws. This is what sets, the speed limits without an engineering and traffic survey. So in some cases, such as Oxnard Boulevard, we don't want people driving down that road at 65 miles per hour. So why would we establish a new speed limit there? Well, it's a requirement by state law. Every so often, we have to keep coming back. Usually it's a 10-year cycle, but there's some intermediate years in there that we have to analyze things. But generally speaking, we have to come back. We have to analyze our street segments and determine whether or not it's the appropriate speed limit. Also, this is an effective speed enforcement tool for police. So when they're out there with their radar guns, which are calibrated every 2 to 3 years, they can, enforce these. So if there's people speeding down that street, if we've set these speed limits via this process, then they're able to actually enforce it and ticket people. And then also we do this to facilitate just orderly traffic movement. What I'm saying there is flow of traffic. So if we want to improve the flow of traffic through especially our major corridors, then we want to make sure that essentially people are traveling at a comfortable speed that keeps them moving without speeding. And so I'll get into what that means in a little bit here with the 85th percentile, but those are some of the reasons why we would establish a speed limit. There's some procedures we follow when establishing speed limits, namely the California Vehicle Code Section 627. We also look at the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and we conduct an engineering and traffic survey as part of this. So some background on a recent Assembly bill. So this is Assembly Bill 43 that was approved last October, and it has been effective as of January of this year. This is legislation that aims to reform the 85th percentile speed limit law. So what the 85th percentile speed limit law is that you have to analyze corridor or street segments, and you come up with what is the 85th percentile speed. So out of 100 vehicles that pass by this segment, what speed is the 85th percentile going at? You set it at that speed. With this new law, it carves out some exceptions to the rules for setting these speed limits. So instead of having to set the speed to whatever the 85th percentile is specifically, it gives us some choices when it comes to setting these limits. So there are other factors now that we can actually consider as part of this, which we weren't able to do before. And they're primarily revolving around safety concerns, particularly affecting vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians and cyclists, etc. All right, so the speed limit establishment factors. So we look at basically what the 85th percentile speed is down the road. So this is what what the vast majority of the users, what the average speed for those people are. Out of 100 people, what are 85% of those people or below doing? We don't want to set the speed limit to what the top or what the fastest 15% of people are doing. We want to set it to what the slowest 85% of people are doing. We also do look at collision rates, such as the mid-block collisions, specifically, obviously, here in the city of Oxnard. And we also analyze crash data that is collected. So for this 2022 study, we used 2019. There's several reasons for that, primarily COVID. So obviously, during COVID, traffic patterns changed substantially, driving behaviors changed. So we went back and looked at 2019. Now, we do receive a lot of questions about, where are we getting our collision data from? One thing of note is that our collision data is always coming from the same basic source, but it is uploaded to different locations. So we use a program here in the city of Oxnard called Crossroads, where we basically, we get the reports from the field, from PD or whoever is doing the reports, and then it gets uploaded to Crossroads, and we have that data, let's say, in more real time. In addition to that, we are required to submit these reports to the state as well. It's called SWITTers. They have a manual entry process, so we'll send them our report, but then they manually enter it into their system. So sometimes we do find that they don't necessarily match, but that's primarily driven by human error. But we always go back to the source if we have any doubts. And I do have to note that SWITTers is about, on average, 9 months behind on entering and updating their information. So that's why we try to rely on our Crossroads as much as we can. And then, like I mentioned previously, we actually now with this new law that just got that was effective in January, we are allowed to look at roadway characteristics such as are we near a school, park, or is there any sort of like pedestrian or cyclist activity that's going to be happening here? And we want to take those into consideration to ensure that these speed limits are safe for whatever the environment around them is. So here's a sample of one of the sheets that we use to collect the data. So we collected this for every single one of the segments here in the city of Oxnard. And this tells you, what the 50th percentile speed is, what the 85th percentile speed is, so on and so forth. So this helps us actually establish what those speed limits are. Again, just more data collection to help us analyze this. So you'll find this for each one of the segments that was analyzed. So as far as the results for the 2022 study here in the city of Oxnard, we are decreasing the speed limit for 10 roadway segments and establishing new speed limits for 3 roadway segments. And then the remaining 162 roadway segments, we're going to basically reestablish the same speed limit. So meaning no change, they stay the same. So of those that are decreasing, we have them primarily located on Gonzales and Oxnard Boulevard. And you'll see here, most, if not all of these are being reduced by about 5 miles per hour. And so that's taking into consideration everything that I mentioned before. We're establishing new speed limits on Edding Road, 5th Street, and Malhart in these locations. Again, based on the analysis. And as far as financial impact goes, the estimated cost for changing or adding speed limit signs for each of these 13 roadway segments is about $5,000. And we do have that funding available in the approved fiscal year 22-23 adopted budget for the street division within the general fund. So we can definitely afford to make these changes happen with your approval. That does conclude this presentation. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to take any questions.